this organization we call the Connected Intelligence Foundation, of which we've got a lot of tremendous companies who are supporting us in this. And the reason that we're talking about, or we like to talk about this, is connected intelligence versus Internet of Things, is it's not about, this world isn't about the things. The things are just merely the, sort of the taking off point of what we can start to do with all the data and messaging and everything like that that's kicked off, so we can actually have make some intelligent decisions. You know, we can get some sort of predictive modeling. We can start to do really, that's when everything starts to get connected in an interesting and meaningful way. And to that end, we are continuing this dialogue to bring in experts in the field, of which we've got a tremendous one tonight to speak about connected car. And just to sort of tip it off, it's not about just the car, right? It's a bigger world than that. And especially what's really great about it is we've got we've got Kathryn Ross from Accenture. And what's really interesting about having Accenture here is Accenture, and remember this is only public information we're going to talk about, but Accenture, because of the tremendous reach they have and the expertise they have, their fingers are in a lot of different pots, and so they see throughout the whole value chain a lot of different pieces that are occurring, and from that can really stitch together some interesting insights into not only what's happening, but where there are opportunities for companies strategically to think about where do we want to participate, where do we want to invest, where are some of the opportunities. So I also want to introduce Rohit Passam here.
Hey guys, Rohit Passam, CEO of Zaptum. Thanks all for coming. Last year we started with 20 people. Today we have 2,000 members. Me and Brian were at CTIA, wireless conference a couple of weeks back. And guys from Raleigh, North Carolina and Denver, Colorado, they're asking us to come there and host these events there as well. Super excited. Having more women leaders come and speak at our event is our top priority here at CIF. If you guys have any feedback, if you can identify any other leaders in this space, we'd be more than welcome to talk. Thanks again for coming, and enjoy the talk.
So the idea behind the talk here is Kathy has a tremendous presentation that she would like to go through, but if I may be so bold, feel free to be interactive over the course of this. Also, if you're thirsty or hungry, feel free to get up. This doesn't have to be a very formal event here. So the way that the evening is going to go is as such, is that she'll have some time to present, and we'll have some Q&A, and then what we want to do, and then we're going to sort of close that portion of the evening out. And then what we really want to do is we'd like to know who's in this room, more than just your name. And for that, we're going to walk through what I call sort of a curated networking to figure out who's who in the zoo here, because maybe there might be some really interesting connections that people might not otherwise know about that might happen. And then we'll have time just for everyone to visit, and who knows what will happen with the food and drink by then, and then you can be off on your merry way on this fantastic, days like today feels good to live in Chicago, right? Because it's a great day. Okay, so no further ado, let me introduce Kathryn Ross. Thanks.
Thank you, Brian. Hi, everyone. As we're just going to switch laptops here. And as Brian mentioned, great presentation, and if I only get to slide 2, that would be fine. So please, ask questions. My goal today is to give you a little bit of a background around connected vehicle, but it's also to throw some provocative thoughts and ideas out there. So, see if it comes back. Yes, it did. Yes, I am. Good. So, by way of introduction, I'm a managing director with Accenture. Been there almost 22 years. I've spent the majority of my career probably acting and working with the edge of technology. So, with our technology labs for probably about 16 to 17 years, and then with things like connected vehicle, things that are on the cusp. They haven't quite made it into the mainstream yet. They're the buzzword still. But companies organizations are still trying to figure out, where does it make sense? How do I make money? How do I generate revenue? What is my new business model going to look like? So the first question people always ask me is, you must really love cars since you're a lead connected vehicle. And I'm going to raise my hand and say I know nothing about cars, right? If you're going to ask me about an engine or transmission, wrong person. What I do know is technology. I love technology, especially cutting edge stuff that is new to the marketplace, and I really enjoy trying to figure out how do we make it work? How does it change the way we live and work? And this connected vehicle is something that's, everybody, just about everybody probably has a car. If they don't have a car, you've been in a car, or you've rented a car. And Internet of Things has, consumerization of, if you take Apple and the mobile devices and things like that, have really changed the way we operate in the world today. And that same interest in very quick, speedy tweets or purchase options or things like that are evolving to go down to even the car. So, when people ask me, as I said, about the car and how I got into this field, in a couple of years, your car is going to be basically your computer on wheels, right? Today, it's, I don't know, if somebody knows more about cars than I do, from a technology to hardware perspective, 50-60, 70-30, not sure, but as you move into the future, especially as you look at things like Tesla, that dynamic switches completely to a more computerized version of a vehicle. And that's where the true value in terms of data really comes to pass. So why today? Why now, right? We are starting to see, those of you, I'm assuming everybody who lives in Chicago, anybody have the parking app? Just about everybody? Some people did not raise their arms and do not have the parking app. Okay. Yeah, you don't want to park downtown Chicago if you do not have to. I will give you that.
We use Zipcar every now and then.
And Zipcar. Well, we're going to talk about that too. All great things. But it used to be you came downtown, you had to park, you put money into the meter, you ran inside, you went, oh crap, time's up, I got to run back out, feed the meter. And now there's this app that allows you to pay, as you're leaving the car, and it gives you a little ding that says, hey, here's the name of it. There's a couple different ones. It's just Park Chicago. Yeah. And you just look. There are actually several. There's also another one where you can actually reserve a parking spot in a garage. Like you're going to go to United Center for an event. You're going to go downtown for an event. You can actually reserve your spot in the garage before you even get there, days ahead of time, so you know you have a spot when you get downtown, if you choose to pay the prices to sort of work downtown. But that's the whole point, right? The car is no longer just an item from getting from point A to point B. What the value now that we're looking at is how does it actually integrate with my life? The car's been talking to us for years. The only people who actually interacted with it was the mechanic when you showed up because you had something wrong, and they plugged in, they did a diagnostic. All that data came down to them. They got that point in time, this is what's happening with the car today. How it interacted with us is you get that check engine or oil or something like that light that popped up. And then you of course have that frantic moment where you're like, okay, what's that mean? Are you taking it right now? Is it gonna blow up? What's happening with the car? Now, because we have access to the data and all the sensors that have been working in the car for all that time, the car can actually speak to us. Now, I don't know about you. I really don't want my car talking to me all day as I'm going down the street, but what I do want is my car talking to my house, so that it knows that I'm within 2 miles of the house, I'm probably coming home. Hit the nest, turn up the air, turn down the air, depending on what time of year it is in Chicago. Turn on the lights. Hey, it doesn't show that, or interface with my refrigerator and shows that I'm making baked chicken tonight, turn the oven on at 350. That's what we want to start happening, right? But it's not necessarily talking to us, but it's interacting with the other things in our life that makes it convenient, for us in terms of the services that it offers.
Convergence of technology, right?
Mm-hmm.
So Ford says that they're using auto, they're using the mobile device as that driver.
Yes.
Do you see that landscape changing, and how are all these tools going to start interacting with each other?
Great debate, right? What we have right now, where this is all heading, is that technology per se is the sensors in the car have been there for years. Cloud, big data analytics, government regulations, all these things are now coming to make these things a little bit more easy and more cost effective to actually happen, right? So, you know, from that perspective, there is a debate as to, do I actually want to pay, right, for a very expensive head unit, the heads-up display in your car, that has navigation, which is usually a pretty penny, or do I just want to bring my phone, put it in the car, and I know that that's updated on a regular basis? Both OEMs, car manufacturers like Ford and others, they're looking at both options, right? Because there are folks who are just going to say, I have my radio on my phone, I have Google Maps on my phone. Why do I want to pay an extra $3,000, $4,000, $5,000 to put it in the car? And by the way, you know, right now, today's technology says that in order for me to get that updated, I have to bring it in for servicing, whereas Apple updates or Android updates my phone over the air in 5 minutes, and boom, I'm ready to go.
But isn't that an issue, like, the car companies struggling with the standards in terms of the platforms?
Yeah, because there aren't any standards. The standards are being created. We are in the point of creation right now where they are trying to figure out what are the consumers going to want. And the problem is consumers want choice, right? There are some people who, I don't want to deal with the phone, just have my car be my car, and there are other people who, you know, millennials for a great example, I want it to be my phone.
I was talking more of the operating system.
Yeah, that's, once again, those standards of operating system, same thing, right? It's a great debate in the sense that it's, you know, it's a philosophical question, which one do you want to go with, right? And what it's going to come down to are certain things like security, right? Security is going to be a big factor, and whoever provides some of the security standards that we're going to need that we don't even know today that we need, they're going to win in the beginning, and then market share will, as others come along behind them, will spread out amongst them.
I guess something I'm being sort of confused about is that every time, like my dad just got a new BMW, right? Every time he gets in the car, it says, promise that you're not going to use any of this while driving.
Right.
Because you can't actually use any of it, because you shouldn't actually use it.
You shouldn't actually use it. Yes.
Any of it.
Well, the technology is there for use. The technology is there for, let me give you a definition first, right? Here's where we're going. We're moving towards autonomous vehicles, right? Self-driving vehicles. That is the era that's coming. Now, I'll date myself by saying, you know, thinking about the Jetsons and things like that, where, you know, way in the future, nobody's driving the car. And I was just talking with Ryan about that. Some people still thinking that's 20 years away. That's 2 years away, right? And so all of those technologies that are in the car today that you're not supposed to use right now are sort of the foreshadowing for when you can use them because you don't need to be driving.
A lot of the companies too are going toward voice recognition.
Exactly.
Is most of as gesture control.
Yes, and we'll talk about that in a couple slides. Eric foreshadowed that for me. So let me just, there's two, let me get some terminology out of the way because they're sort of used interchangeably. Autonomous vehicles is really around self-driving vehicles, right? Then connected vehicles is about exactly that. How do you interact with the vehicle and the head unit, whether that's gestures, whether that's voice commands and things like that. So I just wanted to sort of throw that out there to sort of level set for everyone. And then exactly as you're saying, right? At CES, which is the major computer symposium that was in January, you know, all the major OEMs, manufacturers started to come out, Mercedes, Audi, with exactly what you're BMW, with those first things. Now, anybody buy a car recently? Or rent a car recently? Okay, I'm gonna ask you a question in just a second here. But I was in California back in March and got a car from Avis, jumped in the car, driving down the highway, car starts beeping. I freak out. I'm like, what the heck? What's going on? Did I turn a light on? Is some, you know, what's going on? It stopped. Then it beeped again. And then what I finally realized is, oh, okay, every time someone got close to me, shifted close to my lane, it started beeping at me. Okay, that was annoying. Don't do that. But it starts to become, once again, that step in the, if the car is driving by itself, it now has a sensor that knows if it's getting close to or if someone else is getting close to it. All of these, Mercedes, Audi, etc., the A8, end of 2016 is when they're looking at some of those first technologies sort of coming out of the gate, Mercedes, a little bit further off, they don't have a date yet in terms of an autonomous vehicle, but all of the features and functions that are coming along, those are coming. And then from a connected vehicle standpoint, once again, I'm gonna, throw out James Bond, right? Audi is the wearable, the watch that can bring your car in from a parking spot, right? You hit something on your watch and boom, your car turns on, pulls up, picks you up. That's coming out in 2016, that's next year, right? Not 10 years from now, not 5 years from now. And that's when you start to think about, okay, well, what's this change, right? If you start thinking about this, if you can use your watch or your phone or whatever, I mean, I can use my phone today and I can see exactly what's happening with my car. I can see, what the gas mileage is before I even get into it. I can see, if I had a teenager, I don't yet, but, if they're driving outside of a certain geofence, right? I want them to be able to go to school, to go to work and come home. If they go beyond those boundaries, I want to know. If they're going over 55 miles an hour, I want to know. Or over the speed limit, right? Those are some of the things and capabilities that sort of start to come along. I mean, if you think about autonomous vehicles even further in the future, think about the elderly who, can't drive anymore, and now they've got opportunities to have, a life outside of their home. They're not homebound because they've got an opportunity now with an autonomous vehicle to be able to move beyond the everyday.
So what would happen to insurance if you have autonomous vehicles?
Okay, I'm gonna get to that. Hang on to that question, because we are gonna talk about that in just a couple slides. So what does this all mean, right? As I said, when I was driving that car in California, I really started thinking, okay, this is one of those things where it's annoying, but at the same time, I love the camera that's on my car. I actually find it very, very difficult now to back up when I drive my husband's car, which I did the other day, and I had to back up, and I'm like, there's no camera. And it's like, okay, I gotta go back and I gotta remember, how do I do this? So that from just a personal muscle memory type thing is an interesting thing, but the business models, and that's I think what we're really here to talk about. We're gonna throw some provocative things out, use cases out to you guys in just a second here. It's really about the business models, the car sharing, the Ubers, and how they are changing the dynamic about how, when, and where we buy and or use cars. So I'm also gonna real hit on your question in terms of insurance. I just wanna hit what I call this is the Wild West, right? I don't know how, when, or where I started going into these old Western type of analogies, but I did. And we are sort of at the gold rush right now, where everybody's at the starting gate. Everybody's racing to develop and innovate and build something new that's going to captivate consumers and be that next big thing, right? They're all looking for that. Now, the technologies in the car themselves, that's table stakes, right? Customers, consumers, because they've got a mobile device, they are expecting those things to be there. The question is, how do we take advantage of the data from the car, the location potentially of the person, the context of who's driving, where they might be going, to actually create business, service, generate revenue. All of these folks on this picture are trying to get a piece of the owner of the car, the data. Nobody has the answer yet, but there is a huge amount of opportunity.
Can you clarify a little bit about nobody has the answer yet? Like, how do you find that?
Meaning that there hasn't been a developed business model yet, right? That is that thing that takes you over. I'm sorry.
Are you talking from the consumption of the data and monetizing it?
Yes.
Or is that what
Yes.
you're
For monetization of the data itself. Right. There are a lot of apps that are being created. There are a lot of, but in terms of significant business generation, that's coming. And you've got the Apples and the Googles out there who are jumping into the car business, right? And sorry, go ahead.
What's your opinion on who owns the data?
Good question, right? OEMs would like to say they own the data. Telco providers, because they provide the pipe, would like to say that they have access to the data. Kathy's opinion, which might or might not come true, is that I think it's going to be the customer who owns the data and chooses who gets to use it for what, right? Because the last thing I want to have happen is I get spammed in my car, right? So I want to choose who, when, and where has my data. Maybe my insurance company, right?
Yeah,
They're gonna wanna have my data.
There's value in data. that we can
Absolutely,
see,
and there's
so-
absolutely value in the data, and so, once
so
again, that's
Kathy
Kathy's
should-
opinion.
Kathy should take advantage of that.
Absolutely, and I plan to.
I think any service provider who's gonna discount my bill can get my data. Right? Right?
I think it changes a bit too though, right? I think when
Yeah.
you get to the point where they have taxis that are now autonomous vehicles, then by signing up or joining that car service, they own your data. Or potentially, you
Yeah.
accept or agree in
I
that
mean, you
sense.
just, you look at Facebook, right? Any picture you put out there, they technically own, right? Your data out there, they own. So it becomes a question of, yes, how much am I willing to give away for the convenience of a service, in this case, a discount? In other cases, it might be, something else. But then that comes into the service model, right? What value are you gonna provide to me that I'm willing to give you my data?
You kind of touched upon it a little bit. What do you hear in terms of ethics in that area? Ethics is very heavy word, but like, you know, is it for my best usage, or, for example, they will know that you're driving by a coffee shop or a fast food chain, etc., right?
Right.
So, you know, are you gonna keep getting emails to buy coffee, or every now and then
Well,
say,
that's
hey, you
what I'm
have a
saying.
lot of coffee, maybe
Right,
buy
maybe
a
you,
water or something?
maybe you should buy some water.
Yeah.
So that's gonna be, so number one, right now, most companies are going out there, it's an opt-in service. You have to choose to get those emails and those offers, right? So they're not just gonna send it to you. Even the manufacturers know that when you drive off the lot, before you do, and believe me, there's a lot of disclaimers, you have to sign and say, yes, I'm willing to receive offers from so-and-so, right? Just like on your phone or apps or whatever, you get the spam of, try this app because you saw these 3 or 4 apps, you clicked on them before, you might like these. You're gonna get those same offers. It's gonna be up to you and the service that you join as to whether or not I want the little evil, or the angel and the devil on my shoulder that tells me, go buy some water instead of coffee.
Also probably the generation, right? So our generation is different. In 10 years, the guys who are 8 years old, they'll start driving. You know, they like getting messages from everywhere all
Yes.
the time. So.
Yeah, I think it's probably interesting to know the Accenture survey. So we conducted one this year, which was refreshed from the one last year, but they surveyed something like 14,000 people around the world. And what you see is broadly they want all the services and then they also pay for it.
Exactly.
And so the monthly subscription fee ranked very, very low. Like who is willing to give away their data to get some of those services for free or a one-time fee? It actually starts to pay that.
Very true. You know, we were talking to somebody at ComEd, and they're working on a model where, you know, within your automated home, if they get access to your data, they're going to subsidize your electric bill. Isn't that good? You know, you might actually get your electricity for free by sharing some of your home usage data.
Potentially, yeah. I mean, and it's it's generating value for you, but the question is, how do they're getting more business. That's how they're getting,
Right.
you know, you involved in that.
So why is everybody gonna own cars in the future?
We'll talk about that. But
If you don't own the data, why should I have this car? So if
When you say
the
you,
auto
as in the individual?
manufacturer owns the data, why do I wanna buy that car? So in other words, it's gonna be a differentiator.
It will.
Right.
But that's what I'm saying, is you have to give them the right, when you take that service, to have your data.
Right, but it's like so many other services today.
Absolutely.
You're either, it's our way or the highway, so you can opt out if you like,
Okay,
but
so
you
we're
don't get it.
No, we're gonna talk about that. So hang on, because the thing is that when you buy the car, right, from the OEM, from the manufacturer, there's a connection. But when you sell your car to somebody else, there's no connection, right? There's an opportunity, right, for other things to sort of, so hang on to that question, because we're gonna talk about it a little bit and where this lies. Because the owner of the data, is very key in this, but even if the individual didn't, there's still huge amounts of opportunity here, for us in this. The one thing I wanna, oh, sorry, go ahead.
So that's a interesting graphic and kind of encompasses what everybody that's potentially accessing this network and presumably is going to be over the cloud, and that implies software that's run on the internet. And so I'm wondering, with that, I've heard a number of larger companies developing their own communication system that's run outside of the internet. They're kind of created their own communication system to ensure security. And so, especially when it comes to driving, you know, there's a heightened need for security because of potential risk involving a high-speed vehicle.
Yeah.
And so I'm wondering if, in enabling multi-parties to work together to provide services, how do you balance having a network that's open enough for additional players to be in, and the security and maybe the need for a separate dedicated communication stream or kind of separate internet to ensure security over a heightened need for security in a vehicle?
So so security is going to be one of those, as soon as, if I take the vehicle out of the picture, I'm just saying Internet of Things, period, right? The data, right, and the interaction that now is allowed, right, into your house, into your car, brings that security question to a very heightened. Now, car is very, very different because obviously you can kill somebody, right, if it's going at a higher rate of speed. And it is something that they are looking at very, very closely around, you know, there's the technical operation of the vehicle versus the data that's coming off of it. What is that interaction method going to be? And as you said, if they bring in third parties, right, to sort of do that, how do you shield the vehicle, if you will, from that? All of those things, I'm sure folks have seen, you know, the news reports about the hacking of the Jeep, the Jeep that happened, and you know, there are a lot of reports out there. I mean, right now that particular hack was initiated because someone physically touched the vehicle first before the software was then hacked. But the opportunity, because we are opening up the vehicle for a software hack sometime in the future, is absolutely there. Do I have an answer for that yet? No. It is something that has to be looked at and will be looked at as manufacturers as these things move along.
Do you foresee that, similar to the way that, like, let's say I know, like, John Deere or Caterpillar, they develop their own separate communication systems on you know, top secret information, you know, stuff like that. Do you foresee something like that, the car industry develops their own kind of separate, like, as an analog, so that it's outside a realm and they become a gatekeeper for?
I don't know. I haven't seen that yet, Eric. I don't know if you have at all with OEMs. I have not seen the creation of a separate platform. I mean, they're relying, you know, their main goal right now, right, is to not become commoditized, you know, with the Apples and Googles of the world. Are they buying platforms out there? Yes. Audi, Daimler, and BMW just bought Nokia here, which is a mapping platform. But that was more around getting a connection to consumers than it was about security or having a cloud that's separate. So I have not seen anything from an OEM perspective that shows that they're creating a whole separate network, sort of like a Caterpillar did. But Caterpillar also has a very confined space, right, in terms of their demographic. And everything sort of goes back into them, whereas today, from a manufacturer standpoint, at least for cars, it's not the same. It's the dealer network that truly has the connection with the customer and the data that to this point has never been used really outside of the mechanics service page. All right, so let's jump in. I just wanted to throw a picture out there. Someone mentioned Caterpillar. You know, one of the things that is interesting here is that and it's the nirvana of telematics, is about operational efficiency. I'm not really going to talk about it. If anybody wants to know more about it, I'm happy to, you know, answer questions about that. But, you know, supply chain efficiencies, costs, you know, those are the things that will absolutely come with this. We're going to talk about some more provocative stuff. So, I'm sorry, I didn't get your name.
Oh, Kate.
Okay. So you recently bought a car.
Sure.
Can
Yeah.
you tell me a little bit about the process you went through to buy your car? Did you go on the internet first, look it up?
It's pretty decided. I wanted the car with like the best fuel efficiency, so I wanted the 2015 Toyota Prius.
Okay.
Well, I didn't. That's right. Well, it's the price problem right there.
The price was in there
you know,
too. Yeah.
You know, maybe in a few years when that next one comes out, whatever. But it was that was it. That was it.
But how did you do it? Did you go on the internet and research Prius to say this is the one that I want?
No, I just got the latest one.
You just got the latest one.
I mean,
So
I guess I'm not illustrating your point.
Well, no. I'm just trying to ask how you went about it, right? Did you just buy it on the internet, or did you go into a dealership?
I ended up going to a dealer.
Okay.
And you know, the guy, you know, sold me on it.
Sold you on it.
Sold me on it. I just like just give me this one.
This is what I want.
Yeah.
So the thing with car buying, if I take Tesla out of the picture for a second, is that we have been buying cars today the same way that our parents and our grandparents buy cars. Now, okay, our grandparents probably did not get on the internet and configure their vehicle and look at financing and pricing options. But even today, many of us, there are opportunities to just buy your car on the internet, but many of us get out. Once we do that, and we go to a dealer, we maybe got a quote from a couple dealers to give us the best price, but then we had to leave, we had to go to that dealer, sit down in their office, do a test drive, do the negotiation, before you sign a contract. So that process is still the same, right? And the exact questions that you asked, gas mileage, price, things like that, those are the questions that you sort of asked about the car. You had a question?
I was just gonna say that I wanted to buy it online, just have it shipped to me.
Right.
But my wife or whoever said, well, she wanted to go old school, go to the dealer.
Right. You want to look at it, you want to touch it, you want to.
I didn't care. I mean, I know it's gonna be good, right?
Absolutely. I'm not saying that necessarily that's going to go away. What I'm saying is the types of questions that you're going to start asking about your car are going to change in the future, right? Who asked the question about the phone, right? Instead of just about gas mileage and what kind of tires and is it an SUV and four-door, you're going to ask, can my phone be my head unit? Instead of paying for the nav, does the car give me the option of just being able to use my phone? Does the car give me the option to be a internet hotspot, right?
So, in the previous slide, you showed the ecosystem of the data. Now, obviously, with technology adaptation, some will be in the side of being used, and some ones are going to be eclipsed, right? So, an nav system provider, for example, right? So, versus you getting a nav system through your phone, right? So, what do you see in that regard, or do people talk about that part yet?
Well, I mean, what they say is basically, right, today you can still buy it in your car, and in many cases what you're probably going to see is the same technology in your car as what's on your phone, right? Instead of creating a whole new app or whatever, you can still use Google Maps, or maybe you get to choose your map provider of choice, and that's what gets downloaded to your car, and it gets uploaded or updated, right, just like that.
And there's a couple of views on it, right? So I think one, if it's sort of more infotainment, so think like mapping, music, entertainment, the prevailing thinking is it'll go to Apple or Google, right? If you look at the early reviews, beta kind of Android Auto, Apple CarPlay, it's pretty basic. If you read the reviews, they say, look, it doesn't do this, it doesn't do that, it doesn't include any apps, and by the way, it's awesome compared to what the automakers do. So I think if it's more kind of car related, meaning the actual physical vehicle maintenance dealership, something like this, where it's more kind of car operation. The thinking is we'll kind of go to the car maker, and if it's more infotainment, the thinking is we'll probably go more toward that.
Because that way you choose, right? I mean, there are services that you already use that are on your phone or your device. You just want to take that everywhere, whether it's in your house. You want to hook that same thing into your house, whether it's in your car. You just want to hook it into your car.
Oh, question on this. Is this defined as actually purchasing online and getting it shipped, or going to the dealer after you
This is
purchase
purchasing
it?
online, right? That user
Via the
interest is
actual
having it
transaction.
purchased online, right? So if you go out and you try to buy a Tesla, today I went online just to,
Yeah.
see, what does it take? Everything is there, right?
Yeah.
You push the button, you tell them when you want to have it delivered,
Yeah.
and you literally put your credit card in right there to pay for the whole car.
Right, I can pay on my card.
Exactly, right? So but the thing is that in essence there you are buying a computer on wheels. So it's like you're configuring your laptop, right? When you're buying, a new computer from the store. So obviously if you want to do the test drive, you can still do the test drive with the vehicle. We're going to talk about service and maintenance and how that changes as well. But if you think about this in the car buying process, and we're actually, as soon as we get to insurance, we're going to talk to your question about whether or not we will buy cars. This starts to change the dynamic.
Do they come with exchange or return policy? 30 days, 90 days?
I'm sorry?
Do they come with a return policy? Return.
A written policy?
A return.
A return policy, okay.
Yeah, he's joking a little.
Oh, okay.
It's good for credit, but in-store credit only.
In-store credit only.
That's right.
Buy another car, yeah.
You guys have got into different analytics there in terms of like gender, like you brought up a good part where he said he wanted to buy it from the internet, but his wife told him to go to the store. Did you look at all into demographics as to those countries you mentioned?
Yeah, no, I mean, it goes down to a very granular level. We're really in the early stages of this, and what you're going to see is the younger the person, the more likely they are to buy it online, right? Potential that there may not actually be buying a car.
Process is, I think what's happening now is what happened with the clothing industry 5 years ago. It was when people thought you wouldn't buy clothes online, and now a lot of purchases are done online because you don't want to go into stores. It's a matter of efficiency.
Right.
And back then, I mean, retailers were saying, well, we're not going to close down stores because of this. And now, isn't it in some locations, Nordstrom and even Marcus, they have those mirrors where you can actually pick out your clothes, and it projects an image of you wearing them.
Right,
So
you can actually
select
just
them.
see what it's gonna look like on yourself.
Right.
Yes, to a certain extent,
So
yes.
sort of that
It's sort of like that. Tends to be that when you're making a very large ticket item price or purchase, you
Right.
do wanna kinda see it and feel it and touch it. So if you're not familiar with that brand, but that's what I'm saying,
But
we're
it's
gonna.
mentally more accepting.
Exactly.
Because
They are
you've
ready.
done it. Exactly, which is why
Exactly.
the younger people will do it, but not
Yes,
people our age.
once they actually have a chance and understand. Was there a question in the back?
Did that data include used cars or just new cars?
Just new cars.
I think it kind of goes to a Tesla model where they don't have dealerships but more
Yeah.
showrooms.
Right.
So you go in and you see the showroom, you know what you want, and then you order it.
Right, there's no dealer, there's no, process. So if I switch things a little bit and I talk a little bit about, service and maintenance, and it comes back to the question about, I'm sorry, I don't know her name, but had about, whether or not we'll choose to buy cars. With today's cars, right, you still, every 15,000 miles, whatever, gotta bring it in, get your oil changed, all the fluids done, someone's gotta check things, and we'll do electric vehicles in a second in terms of what the service model is. But the new technologies, right, as we move more towards that hybrid model, where, you know, you've got, other features on the car, there's an opportunity, and this is another provocative point that I'll throw out there, and I think it's, I'm sorry, I don't know your name. Oh, sorry, Rachel.
Yes.
To your point about the data, right? And if I go back to Kathy's opinion that the car data will actually be owned by the user, right? What if there's an opportunity, right? When you buy your car, now they always try to upsell you on the warranty, and you wanna get the warranty. But what if you don't need to get the warranty with the dealer, right? Because everybody knows when you go to a dealer, they're always 3 times the price of anybody else to fix your car. But what if there's another service offering out there, somebody else, another business, that says, I will guarantee I will put Ford parts in your vehicle, but I will warranty your car for $2,000 instead of the $5,000 for 5 years that the dealer is asking for. And instead of now me giving the dealer access to my data, I'm gonna give this service access to my data instead. Right, so when my car has a fault that comes up, it will alert this individual, this company, this business, and say, Kathy's car just had a low tire pressure signal come up. It'll look at my calendar and it will schedule with these guys to go in and service my car instead of the dealer. You could do it with the dealer too. If you wanna go that route, fantastic, right? You can make that choice, but I own my data and I get to choose who I use to service my vehicle. So that's a new business model that doesn't exist. Now, today, you can just take it to, you know, the guy down the street, the mechanic down the street, you know, who, can repair your car, but what we're finding is with mom and pop or family-owned businesses, with the technology that's going in cars, they're not necessarily able to keep up with the electronics, right, that are going into cars and being able to continue to repair. But you can see how new business models could pop up where, you know, hell, Best Buy, you know, could become your servicing because you're downloading apps, you know, potentially into your head.
Or Red Box.
Exactly. Maybe, you never know, you just drive up. All right, if I take electric vehicles, right, Tesla, they don't have any oil, right? They're software. So it's over the air, right, in terms of an update, right? I talked to a guy who owned a Tesla, and, you know, basically he doesn't have to take the car in for anything. Any of the updates happen over the air, and if there is something that physically needs to be done, Tesla goes out to their house and fixes the car. Or if the car needs to be taken someplace, they come out, they bring a loaner, take the car and go, and then find out where the person is and bring their car back and do the whole switch. Which is a completely different service model than those of us today who go and we sit for 3 or 4 hours waiting for our cars to be repaired and or go through the process of trying to get a loaner and come back and do things.
Which garage they don't fix it?
The Tesla?
Yeah.
We don't know. They come and pick it up and Tesla does something in their, and then bring it back and boom, there's your car.
What?
But the amount of times that happens is minimal compared to every 15,000 miles we take our car in and we get our fluids and our oils.
I mean, now, famous example, right, they had a battery that was basically,
Yes.
or yeah, it was getting too hot. top, right? And
Right.
instead of kind of do a recall,
Right.
they did flash over your updated, raise the entire chassis, keep moving, to solve the problem.
Yes.
And I think people were saying, was this like sort of the first recall for Tesla on this? And that's
It's an update.
It's an update.
It's an update for, yeah.
I don't know.
So have there
I think
been
I would've called it a
second-party
recall.
providers who
Yeah, I think
stepped
I
in
would've
the
called it.
middle of
It's got
this?
more switch
So for
recall.
example, everybody, well, most people now know that the closer you are to your hub, the better your receptivity is, right? So if you're at AT&T and you happen to be working from home, but you are really far from your connection box, you have slower performance.
Okay.
Right? So, I don't care who you are as this driving mobile thing, right? The actual, nodes of who's actually receiving and transmitting your data matter enormously.
It does.
To what you're doing,
It
right?
does.
So I don't think the auto manufacturers have gone in to buy part of those networks.
No, but there's also nothing that necessarily, except for one thing, right? If your airbag deploys, your car will call E911, right? Other than that, the need for immediate, right, connectivity, there hasn't, at least I haven't heard of anything in which, you know, that's absolutely necessary.
There's this amazing startup in Chicago who's working on it. It's called Zaptive. Me and Brian started, and we
What's it
work with
called?
Zaptive. And we work with all the operators to basically work on the problem that you're talking about.
But what's the problem?
It's like we optimize the radio base station so that the messages are more reliable, and they're passed on to like the big data system so that
So who pays?
the operator pays for it. AT&T pays for it, provide a better service. Like if you have dropped calls.
Right, but the car.
Yeah, but
The car's
The
connected.
data plan, are you gonna have to buy a data plan with your car now?
Potentially, yes.
Yeah.
Or, once again, you bring your mobile device in and you already have a data.
Or somebody like you sells data plans.
Right.
Oh, no, we sell to
No, they don't
operators.
sell data plans.
We don't directly sell to.
Or the data plan is free, but you give up your data.
Right. So, I mean, there's all kinds of new business models that come along with this, right? And then if I throw in the fully autonomous vehicle, right, where you don't need to drive, all right, this could completely change the market because you go to sleep at night and your car trundles off to the mechanic who gets updated and you know, while you're asleep, right? So it's unnecessary, right, for you to be a part of the process because it's just waiting for, oh, okay, you're not gonna be using the car for some period of time. Now I can go off and get myself updated, I can go to the mechanic, I can go get a car wash. There are services that might switch from daytime to nighttime because they're running around out there by themselves because they don't need a driver in them. And you programmed it and said, yes, go do this at this time while I'm asleep. There was a question, I think.
Oh, I was just saying, I mean, obviously this is the automobile, the private automobile is a huge segment of the market. But obviously, commercial, auto, trucking,
Yes.
Specialized vehicles like what all of our friends around here like Navistar and Deere and CNH and European Automotive, et cetera, and our friends that do like bicycles and
Yes.
motorcycles, I mean, not to say that, you know, they're gonna have different maybe characteristics and
No, but
it's all part of the same.
it's all part of the same environment and
Okay.
they're all going to have that, you know, so trucking, we do a lot with fleets, are gonna be a huge, right, a part of this, right? And, you know, when you think about, you know, automated or fully automated trucks, and what that can do in terms of changing the dynamic from a retail perspective, in terms of, availability, you know, you name it.
Well, and I went to it was an infrastructure conference or kind of panel, and Tesla was there, but like IDOT was there, and, you know, and folks that put the sensors in, you know, et cetera. And they asked, well, what would be the one thing you'd love to have if like it was no object or whatever? And the one guy that really works on it every day said, you know, segment like the commercial trucking traffic onto different highways, different, you know, and different, you know, different places, get them
Right.
off the, you know, the regular car interstates. And you know, that, you know, could be fully autonomous sort of.
It could be, but you could also think that when you are fully autonomous, you can operate under different time schedules, right? Where there are less consumer cars on the road at certain hours, where you could have the trucks on the road. That's dangerous right now because truck drivers get tired and sleepy and things like that, but if you're fully autonomous, you know, there's opportunities to sort of do that. Because the other requires creation of new infrastructure, which might happen, but there's something in the space, right? So, all right. Rohit, I think, mentioned insurance. I wanted to make sure that I hit insurance. So just a couple days ago, this article popped up, and I thought it was a really interesting article. My husband and I have debated about this for a while now, because while we are in what I call the hybrid zone, the zone in which we're going to have fully autonomous vehicles on the road, as well as vehicles being driven by humans. That's probably the most dangerous time that there is going to be, especially in the next couple of years, in which you're going to have semi-autonomous vehicles, meaning that when you are on the city streets, the car will operate by itself, meaning driverless, but when you get on the highway, it expects you to take the wheel, right? So that is also something that's sort of coming along, and is going to require a little bit of education. Google's problem is that their car is the safest car because it's programmed to follow the letter of the law. We as humans like to think we follow the letter of the law, but we don't, especially when we drive, right? So, you're coming to that stop sign, and do you come to the full stop? Maybe, maybe not.
What about smart signs on the streets, like we got smart cars, smart signs change speed limits based on traffic, and
they could still do that, but you still have humans who are going to do the odd thing that you were not expecting, right? So what Google has found, they've been rear-ended a couple times because they're sitting at the stop sign and they are programmed to wait and make sure they don't see other cars moving, and of course we as humans are edging closer waiting for that car to go so we can zoom along behind them, and the car just sits there and it doesn't move. Or it sees a pedestrian in the sidewalk and it stops, because that's what you're supposed to do when there's a pedestrian in the sidewalk.
That happens occasionally.
And they don't walk across the street, and the car just sits there, and boom, they get rear-ended because the car behind them thought they were going to move off.
Yeah, sorry if I'm repeating, but or the car in front of you fishtails, and you've got to swerve into the next lane, and you've just violated the law in order to prevent an accident.
Exactly. So they're looking at creating a more aggressive AI within there that, but it's still going to follow, it's still a program at the end of the day. It's still not a human who, at the end of the day, could act irrationally. So when you think about insurance, and you think about the fully autonomous vehicle and how safe it is, what's the insurance model for the fully autonomous vehicle? Meaning it's driving by itself. Maybe it is free. But then what do you do with the car that's a hybrid, that's fully autonomous sometimes, but I take the wheel when we get on the highway, right? What's my insurance in that situation, right? Go ahead.
I was also wondering how insurance is going to affect it if there is an accident. Like, because now it's a lot of he said, she said, right? If you get in an accident,
right,
you have to report the accident. And if they're only going to be able to, like, oh, when we recorded that you.
So there's going to be cameras on the vehicles that will show what happened. There'll be impact analysis to show I was hit from behind, or I was hit on the side, or what have you. There'll be data that will allow more analysis. There probably won't be he said she said with 2 autonomous vehicles. But
you might be surprised to learn it already records.
Exactly.
Last 10 seconds before an impact, a lawyer can go get
any data off your vehicle.
Or off the surrounding sensor array.
Exactly. Right? Or the cameras on streets, or there's a whole bunch of different places. And I'm sorry, I know you've been trying to ask a question about that.
A question was kind of came to me. The actual programmers that work on those cars are they actually drivers themselves?
Yes.
They are.
Yes.
100%.
Yes. So
the insurance company, having just bought insurance again, right, renewed it. The options for what you bought, like how much coverage you want for collision, how much you want for medical, how much you want, all those are going to still be intact. What if you have an autonomous vehicle, it'll just take some off, but it won't take them all off.
No, because you're still in a vehicle.
Still going to happen.
Still going to happen, right? There's still going to be an accident. But when you, a human, are not driving anymore, the dynamic changes in there. You could, right, see some new models of insurance sort of pop out where, okay, if you're going to drive fully autonomous and that's all you did all year, you might even get a significant discount because, the chances of you having an accident
is also going to ripple to the manufacturers. So
absolutely.
In other words, as insurance pricing changes, right, if you're driving an autonomous vehicle versus a non-autonomous vehicle, either people will buy more or less cars.
there's a whole bunch of different reasons why people might buy more or less cars. So, because one of the things that we see is as soon as you have kids, buy a car. So, you know, that's one of the dynamics that's sort of out there as well. But it's something, sorry, 5 more minutes, good, we have one more slide.
Well, one quick thing though, if you have a hailstorm, imagine if you're an insurance company and you're sharing data, and they know hailstorms in the area, and it's an autonomous vehicle, they could move that vehicle to a safe location.
Yes, right, exactly. Exactly. So, so one of the things, one of the last things I wanted to sort of throw out there is car sharing. To your exact point, do I need a car, right? In urban areas like Chicago, New York, San Francisco, there are apartment buildings who are actually putting vehicles, setting aside parking spots in the basement for car sharing vehicles. Audi is doing it in an apartment building in New York, right? And it's an apartment building that's geared towards 20-somethings. Why are they using that building? They're using it because they're putting their full fleet of cars in the basement. You can go onto that building's website, you're already vetted, they know who you are, you own a unit in the building, and you can pick your car of choice for that day, right? My wife and I are going out, we're going upstate New York for the weekend. We want to drive a sporty car, we're going to drive the Audi TT, right? You rent that car. Or we're going to run errands, we got to go to Costco, we're going to take the A4 out. By the time you have used their fleet of vehicles, there's a brand loyalty there, you know it. You're familiar with those cars. You have your child, the first child, and you decide you're going to buy a car, probably going to go to Audi, right? Because they've given you some brand loyalty. So this is how they're using that opportunity of, will you buy a car? When will you buy a car to sort of do this? You know, my husband and I, we have 2 cars. I work out of town 90% of the time. So 4 days a week, the car is just 4 or 5 days a week, it's just sitting in the garage. He works downtown. Right? We drop the kids out, we take the bus, drop the kids off at school, goes downtown, picks them up, comes back. 2 cars sitting in the garage doing nothing, right? If there were autonomous vehicles, I'll throw it out there. You take the Uber service and you marry it with Airbnb. Could our autonomous vehicles go out there and be a cab service? So it's making money for us while we're not using it.
It's interesting, so Kathy and I were at the TU Automotive Update a couple months ago in Detroit, and there was sort of a futurist there who's been predicting things in the space for probably 15 years now. And his prediction was that by the mid-2020s, it could have a 25% impact on the purchase of vehicles because of this system.
What's the current, like, regulatory mindset? You know, so I know there was a mandate that I think in the next couple of years, all cars have to have a rear camera. Like, with regards to all these innovations.
So everything, regulations are lagging everything else. The technology is there. The regulations are sort of behind as they try to figure out what to mandate, right? So autonomous vehicles could be here sooner, except for the regulations, right? And the infrastructure within cities and states to allow that to happen. So that's something that we're going to see evolve over time. E911 is still evolving, right? They're trying to figure out, is there a text to E911? Can we do that? You know, is it the car calling or is it the person calling? All those things the government is in the process right now of trying to figure out and working with the OEMs to actually figure out the mandate. One of the new ones that just popped up the other day, right, which was a surprise to me, is that the number of carbon monoxide poisoning deaths has risen. Why? Because our cars have gotten quieter. People don't realize they haven't shut them off. So they pull into the garage, don't realize it's shut off. It's not shut off. Go into their house, and then, you know, unfortunately overnight they pass away. So new regulations are probably going to come out around how do you notify people that your car is not off before you leave the vehicle. So you're going to start to see those kinds of things as technology changes. I'm done with slides, by the way. So.
Yes, I'm also curious from the standing your thoughts about whatever I took Volvo or Volkswagen this week, where they have the thing on the car, on the emissions and software that that only goes into effect when you're passing and when you're emissions testing, so that you pass all the emissions tests, and then it does something different the rest of the time. Do you think? I mean, I don't know. It seemed like I was surprised that was the first one. I thought there was going to be a lot more of that, but I was surprised they didn't even catch it in the first place to say you can't do this.
I think they're claiming it's a software error.
We're gonna say a lot of things. Look, you know, this is once again, this is the Wild West. You're gonna see a whole bunch of things sort of pop up in that vein, and the government is gonna be right behind that to sort of come along and put the regulations in about what's possible and what's not. But that's another one of those things that can now, with the new cars that we have out there today, from an emissions and a regulation standpoint, that isn't something you have to, okay, once a year I gotta go stand in line for someone. now it's something I can just report on immediately. Oh, you wanna know? Here, you know, here's what my emissions is currently today. You get an automated, sticker that says your car is good for next year.
I do have an excuse me, an auto insurance question, and because insurance is so actuarially based, and that this is all, you know, so new, and you know, these guys are looking at decades of actuarial data. Is it safe to say that whatever technologies the insurance companies are working on, they're going to significantly, in terms of certainly impacts on what people pay for premiums, that it's going to lag significantly to what other industries are building around connected car?
Yes or no. I mean, so I don't know how many of you, if you have a car, have had your insurance company call you and say, hey, would you be interested in putting a dongle in your car so that we can understand how you drive today, right? That's been out for several years now with Allstate and others, so that they can at least understand the driving patterns. The problem is they don't have a base of data to sort of use, because the data
Yeah, to do anything with it.
To do anything with it, right? What's happening today is very different. So the algorithms, if you will lag as they understand how, with the hybrid model, fully autonomous and all those things sort of come into place. I don't know that it's going to be significant, because I think that they might be sort of hand in hand with the government regulations, and we'll see as accidents start to happen and how people start to operate, how things are going to change.
And the competition.
Yeah,
And the competition's
I
gonna be
think
there
the
too.
insurance companies are realizing this is such a disruption to their industry that they're out ahead of it.
They are ahead of it,
We're doing
they're very
pilots
much, and they are
with
actually in with
insurance
the operating and the
companies right now.
manufacturers trying to be ahead of it. So I don't know that they're gonna lag, significantly, they're just gonna be, you know, changing their algorithms probably on the fly.
Okay, great. Oh, Alan, go ahead.
Well, I didn't want to like steal any thunder here, but I literally got off a plane yesterday from the Frankfurt Auto Show, and there's a guy who is part of 1871, Joe Renz. You may have seen him, or you may know him, his brother Alex. And they had a function called New Mobility World, and it dealt with all these questions. There were a lot of parking companies using, just applying parking to any available space and turning it over to individuals.
Yep.
And the thing, my walkaway was that cars are now referred to as devices, that they take a holistic approach, because the poor person in a food desert in a larger city now will have access to go to Whole Foods or General, because sharing it, they'll be able to do it for pennies on the mile. And it's electric, so it deals, you get rid of a lot of petroleum substitutes, whether it's for the lubrication or whether it's for the power itself, and it's all about connectivity. And there was one of the companies I saw there was called Blabla, B-L-A-B-L-A.
Yeah.
And so you want to travel across the country, you just put your trip up and people sign up to go with you.
Yep, and they just
There's
car share in that sense.
20 million users. And in Germany, the cars are somewhat autonomous on the autobahns, but
Yep.
I don't know what number it is. It's either 60 or 80 kilometers per hour, then you have to take back control.
Yep.
But other than that, the car's driving itself.
Exactly. BlaBlaCar is one of those where they're creating a service where you put up and you say, I'm going from Chicago to New York, and other people can say, oh, okay, I'm going to join you for part of that journey, and you share the cost of the car, all those things, instead of, once again, to your point, buying your own car. So, anyway, I appreciate it.
All right,
thank
well,
you guys.
So, don't go. We're not done quite yet here. This has been tremendous. Thank you. And it's really been it's really great as we can try to understand certainly different areas in this Internet of Thing world, and the implications on a broader scale. So what I'd love to do now